Okay, we're going off the grid here because we're going to talk about 15 things that no one talks about, seriously, no one talks about on YouTube when moving to a particular city. In this case, it's Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I recently interviewed 3 different people who just moved here from different cities across America, and they gave me a list of their several things that they were like shocked that they had no idea that Phoenix was like, because these things are not the way they are in their cities they came from different cities across America. So I was sitting there scratching my head going, man, I've been living in Phoenix for 20 years and these things are common to me now. But I guess when I moved here 20 years ago, some of these things were very prevalent and I had no idea either. So here we are. I'm gonna rewind the clock. 20 years in my brain, okay, not really. We're gonna go from present day 2025 and let you know what you need to know and be aware of when moving to Phoenix. The smaller oddball things that no one talks about outside of the major things like weather and hotels, resorts, and cacti and desert. We're not covering those things. These are oddball, off the cuff things, quirky things that you should be aware of when moving or coming to Phoenix. Yes, this will be one of the most fun videos I've done in 5 years on my YouTube channel, because typically you don't really want to do a video like this because it may flop, but it could go viral because it's oddball things, quirky things, but are still important for your everyday living. So let's jump in. But before we do, give me a call, 480-660-5974. I would love to chat with you about any questions, quirky or not, that you have about Phoenix or real estate specifically. Number 1 is going to be Facebook Marketplace. I know you didn't see that one coming, but we're going to talk about it for a brief moment because 2 or 3 people mentioned this in their top 5 list. Why? Because where they came from, the city they came from, Facebook Marketplace is not the catch-all for selling any and everything. But in Phoenix, it is huge. People use Facebook Marketplace for everything. It trumps OfferUp and eBay and Craigslist and these other online websites. Facebook Marketplace is the go-to place if you want to buy something that is used and usually in pretty good condition, not always, or if you want to sell things. And how it ties back to real estate or everyday life is because people love to collect things they don't use. And what's one man's trash is another man's treasure. And so you're bound to get a very good thing that you're looking to buy on Facebook Marketplace that's lightly used and for very cheap. So whether you're a seller or a buyer of things, Facebook Marketplace in Phoenix for local Phoenix people is a place to be. Number 2 is going to be APS and SRP. Well, what are these letters? What are these all about? Well, these are the electrical power companies in Phoenix. I know a lot of cities you only have one power company, but in Phoenix you have 2. Now you don't really get to choose because they are delegated to certain parts of different neighborhoods throughout the Phoenix area. You're gonna have one or the other, but if you move from one area of Phoenix into another area of Phoenix, you may switch power companies, at which point you have a whole different system servicing you. Now, the rates overall are about the same. There's not a lot of differentiators when it comes to that. At the end of the day, there's still kind of a monopoly, if you will, because you don't really have a choice of how you get your power. However, the cool thing that both companies do provide are power saving plans. Now, across America, apparently this is not a thing in some other cities, but APS and SRP both allow you to choose the plan you want to be on when you have on-peak and off-peak usage of your electricity. That's right, because the power companies know that people use electricity a ton in Arizona because it's hot, primarily for that air conditioner. They allow someone to choose how they want to pay for electricity. So my family, we choose a 4 to 7 on-peak plan. Now there are several other plans you can choose from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and some other ones. So what we choose is 4 to 7 on peaks. What that means is that every other hour of the day is off peak, and therefore your electricity usage is a lot less expensive. So why would you not do that for everybody? Well, it's because 4 to 7, they hammer you. It is expensive to run major appliances or electricity in general. So there are some strategies about what you can do to minimize the on-peak usage from 4 to 7 p.m. so that you are not hammered on your electricity bill, and it can work out really well. So first and foremost, if you're not home because maybe you work those hours for some reason, then that is a no-brainer. Set your AC way high, don't use it, come back, turn it down, and away we go. So what my family does is we actually cool the house at a low temperature all day long up until 4 p.m. At 4 p.m., the thermostats are set automatically to turn off. And then we cap it at like 83 degrees. So if it gets above 83 by 7 p.m., then it kicks back on. But what happens is because the whole house is cooled that whole day, and it's cooled at a cheap usage, then during 4 to 7, AC is off and gradually the temperature increases, but it typically never goes higher than 80 degrees when we start at around 70. So it works perfectly for us, and we don't use the electricity. We don't use the dishwasher. We don't use the washing machine and those types of appliances during 4 to 7. Right at 7 p.m., it turns back on and the whole house starts cooling back down to the temperature we want it to be at when we go to sleep. So it works out great for us, and it's a pro tip and a way to save on your electricity bill while living in the desert. Whew, that was a lot. They won't all be that long, but let's go right to number 3, which are going to be solar shades. Now this ties in perfectly to number 2 because it has to do with the heat and keeping the house cool. Solar shades are an amazing thing to have on your house. Now these shades can mean different things to different people. You can have actually shades that come down, but you can have reflective tint on your windows as well. The reflective tint is amazing because it literally bounces that heat off your windows, especially if they're west facing windows, because that's where the heat is the most intense in the summertime as it's going down towards the sunset. So it's beating on the west side of your house. If you have windows on that side, putting that solar tint reflection on your windows keeps it a very clean look, and then it bounces that right off, keeping your room that those windows are located much cooler. You can also do the screen shades, which actually go on the outside of your window, and they're tinted to keep the heat off of the window, and they do change the look of your house a little bit. When they get dusty and dirty, they don't look the best, but they are effective to keep your electricity bill down and the heat outside of your house. So something to definitely consider as number 3, solar shades or reflectable tint on your windows. Number 4, we're going to keep into that weather theme. We're going to go right to monsoons. You have to know about monsoons if you're living in Phoenix. Monsoon season, guys, typically runs between June and August, and more specifically the end of July, beginning of August, if you want to really pin it down, where it's typically the heaviest. Now monsoon season can be just high winds and no rain. It can be high wind and rain, but we don't get a lot of rain. We haven't got a lot of rain lately, yet it's still monsoon season. I know, it's weird, but we are in the desert and it doesn't rain that much. But when it does rain, it is awesome. Now growing up in the Midwest, I hated the rain. I remember growing up as a kid saying, please don't rain, because I wanted to play outside or play sports outside, didn't want games to get canceled, and just hated when it was sunny and then all of a sudden the weather came in and it got cool and it rained. I didn't like it. Now, being a 20-year Phoenician, I absolutely love the rain. Why? Because we have well over 300 days of sunshine and a lot of heat, and it's nice when it actually rains for a cloudy, rainy, gloomy day in the desert. It is a beautiful thing, and my kids, who don't know any better because they grew up in Arizona and Phoenix here, they love the rain. And so monsoon season comes, it rains, it is a beautiful thing. Now, the reason why they call it monsoons is because you have some wind, but because the ground in Arizona is not your typical fertile soil, it's more like decomposed granite and hard. It does not soak up the rain that pelts down for 15 to 30 minutes really hard, and therefore you can have some flash flooding throughout the valley. That's why if you look at many subdivisions, there will be desert washes and retention areas that look very nice because they're green grass, but they're there for a reason, not because the builder or developer is nice and wanted to allocate a certain area for a pocket park, but because they had to based on retention and water flow in case there is a monsoon or heavy rains. That is what you need to look out for, and the one word that is synonymous with monsoons in Arizona, that is kind of a funny word, but it's kind of a cool word too, is haboob. That's right. Well, haboob is a 20, 30, 40-foot wall of sand and dust that comes flying in, usually from the south, and it is spectacular to see. Now, it's not super dangerous. You can drive in it if you have enough visibility, but if you don't have visibility, you should pull over and wait for it to pass, because sometimes they can be rather thick. But it just rolls through the Phoenix area. It gets all your outdoor furniture dusty in your house, dusty and that sort of thing, but then it's gone and it's really not that big of a deal. It looks way more frightening than it really is. Number 5 is going to be dining. And dining is typically really good. The food scene over the past 20 years of me living here in Phoenix has exploded. It is actually a really good food scene. However, it's typically a good food scene primarily in Central Phoenix, Scottsdale, and some parts of the East Valley. Outside of that, the dining scene is a little bit like Groundhog's Day. And that's a direct quote from one of my clients who actually moved from a city in the East Coast. Why? Because when you get out to the West Valley, where a lot of it is tract home subdivisions and a lot of strip malls and commercial activity, you see a lot of the same dining experiences over and over again, a lot of chain restaurants. And so he's like, my goodness, wherever I go, I get that restaurant, I get this food, and it's the same thing the next day and the next day, and so on and so forth. So if you have a certain area of town you live in, it could be like that a little bit, but if you explore and get outside of that area, you have some very good restaurants, very good authentic foods, especially from the Mexican side of things. There's some really good Mexican food throughout the Phoenix area, and of course others as well. But if you are in certain areas, it can be a little bit like Groundhog's Day. The next thing, we're gonna go back to the housing aspect of things, and we're gonna jump around and we're gonna talk about attic insulation. That is number 6. You have to have good attic insulation in your house. Now, a lot of homes, when they were built, they didn't have good attic insulation from the time they were actually constructed, and they never were corrected or remedied. And a lot of homeowners don't know that because they don't have a proper inspection when they buy the house. They never look up in the attic, whatever it may be, and they don't know they're missing really good attic insulation. Whether it's blown in or bat insulation, you need to have good insulation in your attic in Phoenix. Why? Because it will save you hundreds of dollars on your electric bill through the course of one summer and many summers if you live down here for a while. So having that good insulation in your attic is crucial to keep that heat out of your conditioned living space below your ceiling. So next time you see that scupper hole in your ceiling, get your ladder out, go up there and take a peek with a flashlight. You may be surprised as to what you see. Number 7, it's gonna be Old Town Scottsdale parking. That's right, Old Town Scottsdale is amazing. That's something that a lot of people know about, and they wanna spend time down there. It's the entertainment and the dining and the shopping capital of the Phoenix area, if you will. And it is a place that you really should go explore and spend some time. But the parking, there is a pro and a con. The parking is terrible. It is hard to get around. It is tough to find. But depending on where you're gonna be in Old Town Scottsdale, there is also garage space parking, and that garage space parking for the most part is free. That's right, it would never be free in Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, LA. But in Scottsdale, Old Town, it is free. How cool is that? I know, something so small and so simple, but free parking? I mean, who doesn't love that? I guess they make up for it when you go in the shops and you spend a lot of money on some cool stuff. However, the parking, take comfort because it's free. Okay, number 8 on the list is gonna be Ahwatukee. Okay, say that 5 times really fast. I bet you can't do it. But the reason it's on this list is because it is a really well-kept secret in Phoenix, because it's an area. Now, it's located on the map, if you look right here, behind the South Mountain Range, tucked in behind that range, which is still a Phoenix area, but it's harder to get to. So now you do have the 202 loop that actually runs to the west and connects up by the I-10 interstate, but also the main way to get in and out of Ahwatukee is up the I-10 on the east side of the mountain range. So for all these decades, this Ahwatukee area has been kind of secluded back behind South Mountain Range, and it has amazing mountain views, and it's just a really quaint area to raise a family and to be off the beaten path, but still connected to the city. So Ahwatukee, because you get combined into the Phoenix area, when people talk about Phoenix, because you do have a Phoenix address, you are a star, and you deserve to have your recognition on this video. So that's why you're number 8. Number 9 is definitely an odd one, but it happens every once in a while, and that is in the dead heat of the summer. Flights at Sky Harbor Airport, well, they can get grounded. That's right, they can get grounded because the tarmac is too hot for them to take off or land, because the rubber on the wheels is just a little too much friction when they get going really fast, given the surface temperature in the dead heat of summer. So now we're talking temperatures of 117 to 120 degrees outside the air temperature in the dead heat of summer, which is somewhat rare. Getting to 113, 114, that happens ever so often, but 117, 120, and have the surface temperature be so hot that a flight gets grounded is somewhat rare, but it has happened. So just be aware of that if you travel every single day and you have to get out on time or land on time, if it's July or August, every once in a while, that could be a possibility. Just saying. Number 10 are going to be data centers. So a lot of people don't know what that is, but now with the invention of AI and all this computing that needs to be done for technology, for everyday business throughout America or the world, data centers are becoming more and more popular. Facebook, Meta, Amazon, and these big companies have these data centers that are huge industrial warehouse type buildings that house all these servers to be able to host and run all of the business and the storage, the cloud storage, the computing, etc., all that technical stuff. That's honestly a little above my head. But the reality is Phoenix is quickly becoming one of the biggest cities for data centers in the entire country. Now, recently, the mayor of Phoenix has put a kibosh on that, or trying to put a kibosh on that, to slow down the zoning so that data centers aren't popping up as much as they have been the past 5 to 10 years. Why? Because data centers take up a good amount of natural resources. And so she wants to be able to keep those resources for other things like housing and construction, whatever it may be, not always just used for data centers. But on one hand, it's really good because it's providing a lot of jobs from construction to ongoing management, ongoing employment of data centers and the people who run them. And it's becoming a big sector of tech for the Phoenix area. On the other hand, it's maybe not as good, or at least maybe not as good to continue at the current pace it's been doing the last 5, 10 years, and just have it slow down a little bit and have some of these data centers that pop up a little bit slower and maybe go elsewhere so they're not all in Phoenix in 10 to 20 years. Probably may not be a bad thing at all. Number 11 is going to be air quality, and that's not a good thing. Phoenix is known for major metropolitan areas to have some of the worst air quality in all of America. Now you would think because it's so spread out and you would think because it's always sunny, maybe air quality wouldn't be that big of a deal. But what you have to realize is that Phoenix is known as the Valley of the Sun. And the reason it's called that is because it's surrounded by mountains, different mountain ranges on almost all sides in a 360-degree angle all the way around, circumferencing the entire metro area. And so because of that, a lot of the pollution, the smog that is generated from all the vehicles and all the industry in the Valley of the Sun just kind of sits in there. And because we don't have a lot of wind in the desert, like you in the Midwest and places like that, it just kind of sits here and doesn't get blown out because of the mountains that surround it and the lack of wind. So there are days where the smog or air quality can actually be highly alerted, and people are recommended that if they have issues with asthma or their lungs and breathing, they're recommended to stay indoors. And if they go outside, to not do a lot of strong recreational activity like running or running a half marathon or hiking and that sort of thing. Those days don't happen a ton, but they do happen throughout the course of a year in Phoenix. And so if you are sensitive to air quality because of some lungs or breathing issues that you do have, Phoenix, it may not be the best place for you to live full time. Number 12, well, it's gonna be something that has to do again with the heat. I know, this is almost like a con list. I'm almost being too authentic with you and almost telling you not to move to Phoenix because of these things, but listen, every single city has their downsides too. It's not all sunshine and rainbows everywhere you want to live in America or the world for that matter, and Phoenix is no different. There is a ton of upside. I wouldn't live here for 20 years, raise a family here if I didn't think the upside well outpaced the downside, but there are downsides, and one of them is this one, which is in the summer, when it's hot, at the epitome or pinnacle of the heat in the summer, once again, your car dashboard can semi-melt. That's right, if it sits out in the sun for the entire day, and it's like one of the hottest days of the year on record, and it's in the direct sun, beating right through your front windshield because you don't have a sun protector on the front windshield of your car, and it's sitting out there all day long with no air conditioning inside of the cabin at all. Yes, your car dashboard, depending on the quality of the car, I think matters too, potentially could melt just a little bit. So be on the lookout for that. Again, we're talking less than 0.001% probably of the time through the course of you owning a car in your lifetime, but it has happened and it could happen. So it's on the quirky list of 15 things you need to know about Phoenix. Okay, we're getting down to our last 3, guys. I hope you're appreciating this list. If you don't mind, give us a call, 480-660-5974, or at least smash that subscribe button. We really take a lot of time to research things and put effort into getting this information out to you in a very succinct fashion. So if you don't mind liking us, we'd really, really appreciate it. Okay, number 13 is gonna be guns. That's right, if you live in Phoenix, if you live in Arizona, it is a very gun-friendly state. And so if you like guns, if you like to carry, whether it's concealed or unconcealed, open carry, whatever the case may be, Arizona is gonna be a great place for you to live because the gun laws are more lax in Arizona when it comes to gun ownership, when it comes to the ability to carry around in your everyday life or living. So if you like guns, if you like the lifestyle, being able to carry and go out shooting at gun ranges, which there are quite a few of those, from C2 Tactical to Scottsdale Gun Range and many, many others. There's a Ben Avery shooting range and others that are outdoor shooting ranges as well, scattered throughout the state of Arizona. So if you like to shoot, you'll find no lack of places for you to be able to go and shoot your gun if that's something you like to do for recreation, or maybe you like to go out and hunt. Arizona is littered with different types of animals that you can pull permits for and go out and have a controlled hunt. And especially up north where it's more mountainous, there's all kinds of fun things you can get involved with if that's what you like to do. So if that's part of your lifestyle when it comes to shooting, collecting, or hunting, Arizona and the Phoenix area is going to be a great place for you to live. Number 14 is going to be casinos. If you like to gamble, Phoenix is going to be a great place for you because there are casinos almost everywhere. They have the entire Phoenix area surrounded with casinos on the outskirts and kind of on the inner city pockets in some places as well throughout the entire greater Phoenix metro area. If you look at the map right here, you can see all the casinos that are located throughout the Phoenix area, primarily on the outskirts. Why? Because they're on Native American land. They can only be built in Native American land in the state of Arizona, and there happens to be quite a bit of Native American land that is designated throughout the greater Phoenix area. And in most of those places, you guessed it, there are casinos. And there's different tribes that operate these casinos throughout the greater Phoenix area. But the bottom line is, if you like to gamble, there are some nice ones, from Talking Stick to Gila River Casino to Desert Diamond in the West Valley. There's some really nice casinos in the Phoenix area. It's almost like you're in Vegas in terms of the quality of the casinos, although nothing can replicate actually being in Vegas. Let's be clear about that. But if you like to gamble and you like casinos, Phoenix is a great place for you to live. And last but not least, solar salespeople. That's right, because you have over 300 days of sunshine in Phoenix, and solar is very popular because of that. You have a lot of salespeople selling solar. Now, the biggest thing that solar salespeople do is they go door to door. So you may get a knock on your door from somebody selling solar if you have a house somewhere in the Phoenix area. And honestly, you probably should take a look at it. I'm unbiased. I've seen it work really well for some of my clients in their houses. I've seen it just be average in terms of a return on their investment for other clients. So it can be either or. It depends on the system you get, depends on the usage you do, and it depends on the credits you get from the government for your taxes. All those things blended together will determine if solar should be right for you. So if you do get a salesperson who's going to knock on your door or give you a call, maybe take that call and just look into it, because it could honestly and truly save you a bunch of money. You just got to be careful, read the fine print, and then make the best decision for you and your family. Okay, that's it. That's the list of 15 quirky things that no one's gonna talk about on a YouTube video about any city if you're looking to relocate from out of state or relocate within the city from a different suburb to another one. But that's the list, and I think you all would agree with me, that's a pretty good quirky list. But what other quirky things would you add to this list? Because if I get enough people commenting below, then I'll make a part 2 and combine all those things into the quirky list part 2 of what you need to know if you live or move to Phoenix. Guys, call me 480-660-5974 or book a calendar appointment on our link below, and we'll show up and spend 30 minutes together just going back and forth about real estate and everything Phoenix. I can't wait to talk to you. If you don't mind subscribing and like us, we really appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to call me. Call me.